Alright folks, welcome to the Outdoor Pursuits Kitchen. We're going to be showing you some equipment, teaching you how to cook some quinoa, fry up some salmon, and finish it off with baking fresh chocolate chip cookies. Stay tuned, it's going to be great. Okay, so we're back and we have boiling water. That didn't take but less than 2 minutes. So we're going to turn that off because it's going strong. Some other things that you want to have in your kitchen ready to go for cooking is you're going to want a good cutting knife. And we've got our cutting boards. A nice little pot if you wanted to heat some hot water up, maybe for a hot drink. We've got our utensils and our eating dishes. I like to keep a little bit of a set here that has can opener, fork, whatnot. And then I've got my additional serving spoons ready to go for meal prep or serving to other people. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna get our quinoa going. I like to not pour all this in with a hot boiling stove going on, just because of safety. I want to make sure that we don't have any issues in that way. We've already pre-measured our water. We've got our pre-measured quinoa ready to go, and our super spoon fork for stirring and preparation operations. So we're going to mix that on in, and now we're going to kick this stove back on. Remember, we just turned the fuel, hit the clicker, hear the stove, and we just want to do a nice little low boil. So we're going to see if the lid can handle it with the food in there, but it might not. So get it to simmer just the way you want. There we go, nice little rolling boil, and you're good to go. This will take about 15 minutes to simmer this water and cook those noodles and be ready to go. Okay, for this next phase, we basically have our backcountry or car camping skillet. Nice little pot gripper here that attaches onto the edges. Nice firm grip. We don't want our hot greasy pan to slip out while we're cooking. And what I also like to do is I prep all my food off of the stove. So I've got my nice sockeye salmon with good old seasoning. Big fan of the Old Bay. Gluten-free, yummy. We'll set this out here for your viewing pleasure. So we've got those seasonings all mixed in, getting it all worked in there and looking good. We're going to set this in our skillet and mix it around on that oil. And again, this is all car camping scenario since we're dealing with fresh stuff, but we can make modifications to the food in order to get it ready to go for the backcountry. Okay, in a few minutes we're going to start this salmon up and get that all going, and then I'll also show you how we're going to bake those cookies. They're going to be yummy. Okay, welcome back. What we have here is we've got a nice simmer going on with our quinoa, and we have our salmon all prepped. We'll get this nice and cooked, and then as a nice addition, we'll be adding these wonderful vegetables in with the salmon. Meanwhile, this is all happening. We're getting our pan prepped with oil and the Outback oven. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. Stay tuned. Okay, so this Outback oven is one of my favorites. You can make biscuits, pizza, brownies, everything you want. Some things you need to know when you set this up is that it's always good to have a heat shield and have ventilation for your canister underneath. Because we want to simmer and regulate the temperature, we have this really fancy heat diffuser. So we're going to put this flat piece of metal on top of the stove, and then we've got our adjuster facing us so we can work. Our pan is going to go on the heat diffuser. Our yummy cookies are going to go inside. Our lid, and the cool thing about this lid is it has a temperature gauge. we're going to be able to see that through our window. Now, the nice thing that creates the oven is this space age technology deal. We're going to drape this over top. This is going to capture that heat, kind of like if you were cooking with fire or charcoal with a Dutch oven where you put heat on top of the Dutch oven. So we'll have our cookies cooking in there, and we'll look down here at this temperature gauge, and we want to keep it in the word bake. And basically I like to keep it between the A and the K, and that usually works really well. If you see any smoking or you smell not good cookie cooking, then you have to adjust your heat reflector, and that usually works, or adjust your temperature. Okay, it's time to get this salmon going. So what we've got going is we've lit our stove. Salmon is going. It's cooking very nicely. You can hear it sizzling. We're going to go ahead and flip that. So what I always like to do is make sure that I'm holding onto the stove, or the pot, as I'm cooking. That way I don't land that in my lap. Ooh, look at that. We're getting a nice sizzle. All right. So I bet I'm going to turn this down just a hair. We'll put that lid back on and let that cook just a little bit more. Hold on to this pot and we'll stir this quinoa. Today's quinoa is sun-dried tomato and basil, one of the home favorites. Yep. The water's starting to boil down and the noodles are starting to get a little bit soft. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to be adding these vegetables to our salmon while we let this quinoa cook on up. So remember, always hold on to that pot when you're managing it around the stove. We've got pre-cut mushrooms, onions, some tomatoes, carrots. Gotta have those veggies. So that salmon's moving right along. We're gonna put this lid on and cook these together and make sure that everything gets all those wonderful flavors. Oh yeah, get that stove temperature just right. I've already pre-made the batter. You could do this at home before you go in, take it in your freezer, cooler on your car, or there's just powdered mixes that you can, mix your water, egg substitute if you need to in the backcountry, and get it all ready to go. We're going to use this as a basically like a cookie brownie pan. Alright, so what I like to do is take the cookies, and I've got my oil in there. Make sure I've got a nice lid. Okay, let's check on our different items here. We've got our quinoa. The water is almost all gone. It's just slowly simmering, which I like it to, burn off slowly if I've got the fuel, because then my noodles and quinoa and pasta and whatever I'm cooking isn't hard and crunchy, and it also tends to not burn down at the bottom of the pan. So find that right temperature that's nice and slow, and if it goes out with the wind, let's see. Woo! Stove safety, huh? Yeah. Careful with that. Get this at the right temperature once again. Alright, there's that. Now, let's go ahead and check our salmon. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Can you see that? Starting to flake like that. Okay, so just to steam these veggies a little bit, I'm going to finish off with a little bit of kind of like a steamer, and cook the rest of these, soften them up as we're going. Okay, our quinoa is all done. Keeping that nice and warm in there. So that's good. Those lids work really well on the Jetboil. If you just had hot water, there's a hole and a kind of air vent and you can just pour right out of it. And then check this out. Salmon and veggies. And see how that little handle holds that pan nice and tight? Good to go. Alright, so that is all set, ready to eat. Now it's time to take this cookie pan and get that going so we can have it for later. Okay, we've got our quinoa served up. We have our salmon and vegetables ready to go. We've got our stove with our heat diffuser and our cookie pan. All that's set. We're going to put this lid on and get our oven all set up. The wind is coming in a little bit, so we're going to add a little bit of wind protection so we don't lose so much heat. And then we're going to adjust the stove so that it is in the bake of the temperature. So we'll let that warm up and make sure we're not burning those cookies. Okay, welcome back. The chocolate chip cookies have been going in the oven for about 15 minutes. We're going to lose a little bit of heat, but we want to check them just to see how are we looking. I have a feeling they are going to be looking good because of the way they smell. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. Can you imagine having that while you're camping or in the backcountry? Okay. Stand by. We'll let you know how they turn out. Can you smell that? When you start smelling that wonderful smell of cookies being cooked like you would at home, you should check your cookies or whatever you're baking. Pizza, brownies. We were right at the A and the K. Oh my goodness, look at this. We've gone from a gooey top to a nice crust on top. That's looking ready to go. Let's test. Oh, that's looking good. A little gooey, but not burned on the bottom. Okay, just for fun, we're gonna give them a few more minutes. Then they'll be ready to eat with your favorite almond milk, cup of coffee, beverage of choice. Stand by. Okay, here we are. Smells good. We gave them that few extra minutes. Let's check them out. Wow, that's looking good. So here we are, chocolate chip raisin, backcountry, car camping, truck cookies. Bon appetit. Enjoy. If you have any questions about the Jetboil and how we operate that, the Outback oven with the heat diffuser, we have a pocket stove with a little canister underneath and assorted other items. Just let us know. We're here to help at Outdoor Pursuits. Have a good day.